All right.
Greetings, everybody, and thank you for tuning in to another episode of Pep Talks Uncut. We are a show sponsored by the Pennsylvania Equality Project of Meadville, Pennsylvania. Our show is a 30-minute, unscripted, and unedited program that will, I think today, take us on quite the adventure, because it seems to be the case that it just goes around the world, but I'm sure our guests will explain that momentarily. He was on the show once before. We bring back Matt Haslam of Matt Haslam Productions, who also happens to be Pennsylvania Equality Project's Eastern PA Vice President. And with Matt is a very special guest, and I'll let Matt do the introductions.
He is a wonderful boyfriend of Professor Pride, but also the Northeastern Regional Manager of Pennsylvania Equality Project, and been working on a ton of different Pride events recently this year, including Reading Pride event, Pottsville Pride, and Knoebels Pride with us for Pennsylvania Equality Project. So this is Michael Martin, Jr.
Michael, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
So not only are you part of the program today, but you're also a big part in how the organization functions. You bring to the table quite a few skills of your own. Would you care to talk at all about those?
Well, mostly my people skills. I'm pretty good at dealing with people, especially in at Pride events and things like that.
This is like a job interview for you.
Well, as I've explained to a number of people who've asked, I've said that all of these episodes of Pep Talks Uncut are really just auditions for a bigger documentary film that we're making. And they all chuckle and laugh. And I'm like, no, really, seriously, that's what we want to do. And they're like, oh, really? Oh, well, good luck with that. So, but there's more to your story, Matt and Michael. Would you care to talk about it?
Sure. So we are officially a couple. We've been dating for like 140 days officially as of today. Who's counting? But no, we've been together. We've had an awesome relationship, and we get to work on not just Pennsylvania Equality Project stuff and helping the better community, but we also work on the show Powered Rainbows together, where he writes a couple episodes for us, and he helps suggest topics of different parts of history. He works a lot in foreign relations and foreign policy and stuff like that. So there's a lot that he brings to the table of helping our viewers around the world.
Well, we'll talk later, but if you ever get into the historic topic of say the Holocaust, be sure to give me a shout. I'd be happy to write you an episode. Not a problem. All right. But however, so you're together as a couple. How did you meet?
That's all you.
Met on Grindr.
You met him while crying?
Grindr, yeah. Yeah.
Aww.
Yeah. So, I mean, like literally, it was like we're both on there all the time, trying to find. We're trying to find a life partner. It's a lot. I know there's like all this talk about, oh, Grindr is just for hookups, but I really didn't use it for that. I was trying to find a life partner, and so was he, and so or did we just like casually met on there, and then the very next day we did a video call date, and then I scheduled a real date on the following Saturday, and he's just like, hey, I want to move that up to Tuesday. I want to meet you sooner. So
wow, how about that?
Love at first sight. But
awesome. So gentlemen, have you met each other's families?
I've met his brother, which is like his family, and then he met my family. It was like 2 weeks into our relationship because of my birthday.
Yeah, it was his birthday. It was a big party that we went to. It was
like jumping headfirst into here's all my family all at once.
Wow. So Michael, did that make you really kind of nervous to have have the opportunity to meet his entire family all in one setting, all
Yeah,
at the
all at
same
once.
time.
All at
All at
once.
once, yeah.
It was a little intimidating.
I felt bad for him, honestly.
I did my best.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So the reason this I think is important is a lot of couples, as they're building their relationship, need to take a look back at events within the relationship, milestones that they've crossed. And one of the bigger ones is meeting with family. So brothers and sisters are important, parents or guardians, grandparents. Grandparents are probably the most difficult, especially if they're much older than I am, because many of them frown or shy away from the LGBTQ plus community. They're just not comfortable with it. Now that's stereotypical, I admit, and that is a generalization, but by and large, it has been shown to be true that the older generations generally, they're not comfortable talking about stuff like that. And meeting each other's families is a big milestone. Do you have any other big milestones ahead of you that you're looking forward to?
Getting married. Looking forward to that.
That's a big one.
Moving in together. I mean, that's gonna happen soon. And I mean, I'm up here at least 6 days a week now, and
Okay.
I just go home to record an episode for the show, and I come back here and I'm like, I can't live without being up here. So it's just a matter of like getting a room available for my studio, and that's gonna be it, but that's gonna be my milestone, definitely.
Well,
Any other
okay,
milestones for you?
I'm actually pretty excited about just getting married. It's something that I've looked forward to since I was a kid. Finally found the right person, so.
Dog and a house.
I'm so happy to hear that from both of you, because that is the level of commitment you'll need, not just for the first day, because everybody can handle the first day once you get past all the jitters. It's the second day, the third day, the fourth day, after the families go home, after the wedding reception is over. It's then the realization, oh crap, this person's gonna stuck with me for the rest of our lives.
You're stuck with me. Haha.
You're right. And it can be intimidating. Now, Matt, you touched on something I think that's very important, and that is moving in together. You mentioned bringing the studio along, and I'm guessing that's the studio for Powered by Rainbows.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Right. So that I'm assuming you're not going to be able to fit it where you're currently staying.
This is like the corner of the room that's available just for a video call. But no, the TV studio for Powered Rainbows is rather large. We have teleprompters, big computers to make the show, and it's just not possible in the current spot. Otherwise, I would already be here, honestly. But
Yeah.
Something where I don't want to sacrifice the quality of the show just to make it simpler in a room like this. It would just the quality wouldn't be there for the education that we're trying to provide, and it wouldn't be up to the standards of like TV quality to be where we broadcast it. But it'll happen soon enough. It's just a matter of that's gonna be a big moving day.
Big moving day indeed. Any prospects as to location yet? You don't have to give us the street address, but
no, I mean we're moving up to where he works in Northeastern Pennsylvania, because my job, I can go anywhere in the world. His job is pretty localized.
Walks away.
2 blocks away from right now.
Yeah, I can literally walk there. I enjoy that.
Well, so it sounds like you've already mapped out quite a bit of the logistics behind your relationship. Can you shine a light on some of the fun side of the relationship? What's been some of the fun things you did since you met?
I enjoy getting him to try new things. He's been a little sheltered for a good portion of his life, so there's a lot of things that he hasn't tried, like
because I wasn't out of the closet until I was like 24, 25 years old. So.
Yeah. There's been like a lot of TV shows. There's been a lot of food things that he hasn't tried. Going to going to different locations, things like that. So it's been nice introducing him to those things.
The fun parts for me
Well-
were like trying, like knowing that he's a good cook, to just like trust him for a meal and go, all right, you can make this however you want to make it. Put onions in it, even though I hate onions before this, but now I like onions. Those sorts of things of just, it's been really fun for me spending even the times where we're in a Dunkin' Donuts line waiting for a coffee, you know, because I hate coffee, but he loves it. And so it's like, those are the moments that I cherish the most. And then when we go on bigger trips with someone, it's like, wait, this is actually like real. This is, you know, this is who I want to spend the rest of my life with, doing these things. It's just been fun for the smaller things, let alone the big things.
Okay, so Matt, this question is directed solely at you. How does he take his coffee?
Okay, so it depends on the time of the year, because normally during the rest of the year, it's iced coffee, decaf, with cream and sugar, no, not cream and sugar, cream and Splenda. And then if it's this time of year, pumpkin spice coffee, iced coffee, the same thing. And if it's December, then it's with peppermint, because he loves that.
It is actually peppermint season now, so I'm pretty excited.
Yeah, well, we did transition, I guess. That usually happens at the stroke of midnight going into November 1st, right? So the Halloween pumpkins get obliterated and turned into the pumpkin pie you're going to use at Thanksgiving, and suddenly there are trees popping up where there never used to be.
I remember
and
I
I
was
gotta tell you,
home. I was
Go
home
ahead.
when when it did that strike at midnight, and I got like 20 text messages. It's pumpkin spice season. It's like it's peppermint season, and I'm like, okay, like what are we gonna do about it? Go to Dunkin'. I don't care. You know?
Well, so I got to tell you, when we transition from Halloween into the Thanksgiving and Christmas season, one of the changes we've noticed is in our pets, because suddenly we have more and more people showing up at our home. Do you have any pets or any plans to have pets?
We do hope to, you know,
A dog.
probably a dog at some point in time, but we don't have any pets right now. I don't think we have.
I have 2 cats, but he is allergic to cats, so you know that's out. But dogs definitely. I want well, he wants a Yorkie. I want a Labrador Retriever.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, maybe you could get a combined dog, call it a Yorkie Retriever. I don't want to know what laboratory that came out of.
Yeah. I don't want to see the pictures on that.
Okay, so you've got the pet decisions made. What about athletics? Do you watch, participate in any sort of sporting events? And if so, what would they be?
I enjoy football, professional football. I don't play it, but I enjoy it.
You're not signed with the Steelers? No? Okay, well.
And I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan just for the sole purpose of making him annoyed. But, I don't follow any sports. I used to film them for a living. Now I don't. So I don't follow them anymore, other than just watching like, you know, men's water polo for other purposes.
Okay. Well, so one of the reasons I'm bringing this up is up here in the Erie area, there are a number of LGBT athletic teams, right? We have roller derby. Yes, obviously that's not something the two of you would be doing, or is it?
I mean, I could see trying anything like at least once, but not for like a living, or like just not like a weekly thing. But I mean, we live pretty adventurously, so.
Okay, all right. Well, maybe you all can start a softball team out where you're going to be living for the LGBTQ community. And you meet up with other teams from other areas, and the next thing you know, you have a league.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh,
it'd be fun.
Uses.
No, I will go bungee jumping, or I'll do like rappelling and stuff like that from buildings, or sky, what was it called? The zip line. I'll do that because you're wearing a harness. I'm okay with that, but no skydiving.
No.
Yeah.
All right. This isn't really the time of year to do it, although maybe you think that it is. Most people tend to stay at home or near home this time of year, largely because the weather in the north is relatively inclement from about November 15th onward. But earlier in the year, back in the summertime, is the opportunity to travel. What's your favorite travel destination, and where would the two of you like to go?
Yeah, good question.
Well, in the United States.
Oh, anywhere in the world. Anywhere in the world. Where would you travel?
David's giving us a budget with Pennsylvania Quality Project to go anywhere we want.
Well, in that case,
Yes, as a matter of fact, I am.
Only Paris? Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so if you're going to Paris, and this is a big plug for them, and they better give us a plug on their videos. Nikki and Pierre, if you're listening, okay, these guys are coming to Paris and they're going to challenge you. They're going to challenge you at I don't know what coffee drinking, espresso drinking, or something like that. Or
he would take you up on that hour.
Yeah, they'll meet you at the Eiffel Tower.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Nikki and Pierre are watching, but if they are, thanks for joining us. So, okay, so let's be realistic. Where are you thinking of going on your honeymoon? Or are you taking one?
The honeymoon is something that we're going to have to decide together. I want to go to like bigger cities like LA or Niagara Falls or something like that, just to see it. But I think that'd be just romantic, of recreating The Office, like wedding of Jim and Pam for us too. But I really haven't thought about too many vacations. It's just he wants to go to upstate New York for like a cabin trip, and I think that'd be kind of fun. But so if I suddenly go missing next summer and I'm not back, but
well, we'll have to find somebody to fill in for Professor Pride. To be sure.
I'm that easy to replace, apparently.
Well, I mean, if you're going to get lost in the woods with your husband, we're going to have to do something to fill the gaps.
No, he'll come back.
He will.
I meant he's going to kill me, but
yeah, and that's the direction I was taking that. So I figure Michael will end up in prison and you'll end up in the ground. So.
I definitely cover my tracks.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Such confidence on this live stream.
So, all right. Maybe you're not going to kill each other while you're out in the woods, but have you run into your first argument yet?
Well, okay. So the cool part about us is, I mean, we can joke around like that. Like on our first in-person date, I made a joke. He said something like, "Oh, I'm really having fun," and telling me that, that he's like confident in our relationship so far. And I told him, I'm like, "Oh, I'm glad one of us is having fun today." And it was meant as a complete joke, but he didn't know my sense of humor yet. So then he quickly understood it. But yeah, we've made a lot of jokes with each other, and I wouldn't call anything we've had so far because we communicate 100%. We are very open with each other, and very, not open relationship wise, but open with whatever we're feeling. And so we've had disagreements over things, but it's been like, all right, hey, this is how I'm feeling, this is how you're feeling, and we get over it.
So it's not little things like you put too much Splenda in my coffee. It's somewhat bigger things.
Have you had any bigger things?
I don't really think we've had big fights. Because we normally talk to each other before it becomes an issue. Get angry with each other.
No, and I pretty much know with communicating as much as I've communicated with him, it's different than any other relationship I've been in, where, I mean, I've been cheated on multiple times, and so there's no risk of that with him, and there's such confidence there that it's like, we're not going to have that big blow up that other relationships might have, you know? Or if
Okay,
we do, we know how to get over
sounds good. Sounds really good. Uh, Matt, you spend a lot of time working on your program, Powered by Rainbows, and we talked about that the last time you joined us. And I'm wondering, from then to now, you met Michael, you've begun a relationship with him, and it's grown substantially.
Mhm.
What advice would you give to young kids about building a relationship with a person of the same sex?
it. Oh,
What
that's
are
a,
some of the highlights, the big stuff? What should they know? What are some tips that you can give them? How
I
can you
would
relate
say
them?
communication is the number one thing I've learned being with Michael, because I mean, for a long, long time, I thought that because I was abused in my first relationship, that there was going to be a certain level of things that I would have to give up on, and I would have to sacrifice of, oh, this is just not that important. Being with anyone is more important than that one little thing that I harp on, you know? With Michael, I've learned, yeah, you don't have to sacrifice anything, and you still get the perfect guy, you know?
Right.
And so for the young kids that I have
Mm.
my program, it's like, I constantly tell them, communicate with your partner 100%. If you try to hide one thing, that breaks that level of trust, and you don't deserve that trust back. Um, and the more open you are with your partner, the easier your relationship's going to go. And I know with Michael, it's weird where we can talk for hours on the phone or whatever, and we still don't run out of things to say. We're still not, at all like, oh, I'm tired of talking with you. It's like, I just want to continue this. And it, once you hit the person that you will end up with the rest of your life, I'm confident in saying that he's going to be that, because you just have a different feeling of, well, this is not like anything from before, you know? So that's my best advice for a kid out
I've actually noticed that with a lot of LGBTQ people, that substance abuse tends to be fairly rampant in the community, and I think a lot of that stems from loneliness. Um,
Mhm.
because I mean, honestly, where else is there for us to go for a lot of people other than the local gay bar or a party or something? Else are we going to meet? And unfortunately, I think that the best thing I would just say is just don't give up. Keep looking. You will eventually find what you're looking for.
I've noticed like a couple of different topics that he suggested to the show
Mhm.
we haven't really had the chance to cover yet, have been, you know, along the lines of substance abuse, but also the gay community is notorious for saying, there's plenty of fish in the sea before you meet someone. And then all of a sudden, when you meet someone, they just don't talk to you. They're not happy for you in a relationship. And that's something we've noticed so far is we'll post videos and people will be mad at us for being together. And it's like, but why? We're happy together, you know? And from before I met Michael, people kept saying to me, well, you'll find your perfect partner. It's like, well, those same people now are mad at me for finding him. So it's this weird dichotomy, and I think it goes back to that loneliness that I was talking about.
Well, hearing all of that, I tend to agree. Now, I know I've had quite a few exes come back and tell me with glee that they're in a new relationship and they're so happy. And initially, when I was younger, I would get very jealous about that and say, ugh, I don't want to hear about it. You guys can't, you can take your happiness and go away. But as I've aged, I've realized that not only pushes away the friends I once had and the people that I really did care about at one time. And rather than doing that, I should be supportive of their efforts and be there for them if things should fall apart or start to fall apart. Somebody there to prop them up. And it's not always easy. You know, it's not. Sometimes it's very difficult to watch your former partner off with someone else. And that reminds me of the CeeLo Green song, Forget You. Yeah. Of course, I used the cleaned up version, not the original one. CeeLo Green, if you're watching, be sure to tune in next week. We've got an amazing guest coming up. Yeah, so gentlemen, we're approaching the end of our half hour, I think. How close are we? You've got the clock there.
I don't have any idea.
Okay.
I'm gonna say we have like 10 minutes left. Sure, I don't know.
Okay, I'm
No.
fine with that. We could keep talking the rest of the day. Of course, I wouldn't get anything else done, but I'm okay with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
All
I don't
right.
need to meet my family for dinner. Yeah.
Are they going to all be there at the same time?
Yes, it's my dad's birthday party dinner,
boy.
so.
Oh, well,
I
good luck,
will say
Michael.
along those lines, I mean, we follow up on our exes. We're, you know, friends with a couple of them, you know, and we're happy for them when they get new relationships. I still get messages from one of my exes. He still gets messages from one of his exes that they're happy for us together. It's weird how like that's the outlier of the community where our exes are actually happy for us. We're happy for them. And they've been mutual breakups and stuff, and they're still friends of ours, and we've actually met a couple of them, but you know, the greater community is what we're talking about there. So
Yeah, my last ex, he's a super sweet guy. I explained to him when we were breaking up that we just weren't right for each other, and that we would eventually find people that we were right with. Somebody mentioned to me at work that if you're not right for somebody, it's really doing them a disservice by staying with them. I kind of realized that. That's when I decided it was time to break things off. And I mean, I'm glad I did, because I ended up with the right person.
and one of the things I've learned actually from an ex was, he told me, like, when you are with someone, when you break up, they teach you a certain part of you that you didn't know before, and what they teach you makes you perfect for the right person eventually. And I think I haven't learned everything yet. There's still things that I'm improving on every day. There's still things that I bicker on him about, of, we'll be in the grocery store and picking out chips and I'll be mad at him for not offering me one. It's like, but that's scripting out our relationship, and I'm not supposed to do that. I still have to learn not to do that, because I had to script out past relationships. But I've learned a lot from my past relationships now, and I can love him better as a result of that. Where I even learned from my parents and his parents, where we get to say, this we'll do better in the future for our kids because of this.
One of the things you mentioned was being at the grocery store. Yes. Have you gone grocery shopping together yet?
All the time, yeah.
All the time. So which do you prefer, rippled or wavy chips?
Either.
You like sweet and sour? No, not sweet and sour. Sour cream and onion. And
okay.
I like regular or ripple, because I'm a boring person. I like the regular whatever.
I think it's one
Michael,
of those
do you
things that
agree?
if you tried other stuff, you probably enjoy it, but he refuses to try certain things. So.
I like what I know.
That's what it is.
Okay. All right.
I mean,
well,
to be fair, I'm glad I tried boys for a change. So I'm glad I stopped acting to be straight again, but food wise, no. I'm happy with it.
well, I think when it comes to certain foods, it's okay to pass on them, no matter how strongly your boyfriend thinks or believes that you should give it a chance. Sometimes it's better just to say, no, thanks. In other cases, it's very important to try. So, Michael, what are some of the things you've been trying to get him to eat that he simply refuses and pushes it away?
Where's the list?
Okay. I made Parmesan one day, and it was amazing. I enjoyed it very, very much. He absolutely hated it. He took one bite of it and was like, I don't know. It aggravated me. But onions that was a constant battle with him just to get him to try them. And then like I made them a certain way and he actually enjoyed them. Cauliflower, he still insists that that's no good.
Right.
But on
Roasted cauliflower
onions,
was amazing.
you tried to get me to eat it on a couple of things, and I didn't want to do it. Then you hit it into my into my eggs as if I'm a puppy or something, and turns out they're pretty good.
Sometimes I hide vegetables. I noticed a lot of the resistance tends to come from vegetables. I don't know.
I'm a meat lover. What's wrong with that?
I don't know if you gentlemen have noticed or if you've been observant of this, but back in 2014, Pennsylvania was one of the earlier states to win equality for marriage. In other words, same-sex couples could begin marrying way back in May of 2014. Now, 7 years on, how do you think the fabric of Pennsylvania families has changed over the years? And I realize it's going to vary in different parts of the Commonwealth.
Want to answer that first?
Well, I've actually seen couples that they've been able to get married. My father and his partner just recently got married, 2015, I think. So I mean, it's nice to see that people are able to do that now. I do remember when I was a kid, I kept thinking that it's kind of awful that my own country wouldn't even allow me to marry the person that I love, and very glad that it's happening now, and it makes me more proud to be an American.
I'm curious. Marriage equality is under attack in some states. Virginia, for example, just elected Governor-elect Youngkin, who has come out against marriage equality, among other topics. And it seems Virginia's on the precipice of rolling back a lot of the progress that's been made. What steps towards progress do you think Pennsylvanians need to make, and what do you think should be our priority, our number one issue?
So, I mean, I've said in my last interview, and I'll say it again here, education is number one. We don't teach our kids enough about the LGBTQ community where they know that we're normal people and they know their classmates are normal people. So they begin to develop this hatred early on in life, and their biggest bullies are their parents and their teachers a lot of times, and teaching them that they're different, and so that's number one. But I think this year has been unprecedented. I mean, we were just researching it for an episode of ours of this year has on record 17 anti-LGBTQ laws that became legislation across the United States, which is more than any other year in history. Because I think it was because we finally had an LGBTQ friendly president in office after what just happened a couple of years ago. And that sort of dichotomy made a lot of hate groups spend millions of dollars across America to introduce these bills. And they sort of won the battle here. And we had not just Virginia, but a whole lot of states enacting these laws that just restrict freedoms. And I don't understand how they can do so after the marriage equality passed federally with the Supreme Court. I don't know how it's legal for a state to go back on that now and say, no, we want to be different. It's a shame, but it's something that's happening, and we need to educate our kids so it stops happening.
Most definitely. I got to agree. Sorry about all that. Somebody's just come to the door, and I believe it's our art director or one of our art people, Meredith, has just returned home, and she's a handful, as were my other children. And that raises the question, do you have any prospects of having children?
Not tomorrow. Like, there's the good part about being gay is there's no risk of him getting me pregnant. But I mean, I
That's
will
not how
say,
that works.
yeah, weird. That
Yeah.
doesn't, yeah. But you're welcome. He hates when I do that. And he wants kids. How many kids do you want?
I think two would be a
Yeah.
reasonable number.
Yeah, not tomorrow, but I think we've agreed that we want stability in our relationship first. We want to have a home where they can, grow up in. We want to be married. That way they don't have any fear of their parents breaking up. And we want to be financially stable for that. But definitely we're planning on having kids.
So it sounds to me like you're taking all the same precautions that any opposite sex couple would in towards making their not only their relationship between each other, but the eventual family they're going to have. You're taking steps and precautions that any opposite sex couple would as they're preparing the same things.
If not more, I would argue. There's a lot of straight
Probably.
couples that didn't plan on having a child, or they have a child for purposes of getting government assistance or something. We've seen. I know it's horrible to watch it happen firsthand in the comment section of my videos, but I've seen it happen way too many times where parents just don't care about their kids. Where by the time him and I will become parents, we will fight hard for that, and we will definitely want kids.
I'll close the show today with this final question, and that is, what if your kid or children, multiple children, come out as part of the LGBTQ plus community? Then what?
That's a big 100%.
I mean, I think our kids would know my job as helping kids come out of the closet, and right now our show is being implemented into school districts across the world, into their curriculum. Teachers are having myself as a consultant to help them on this, and that's why we're creating master classes to help with it more. But I mean, any kid in our situation would look at their parents and go like, well, both of my dads help the community and help kids come out, so they should feel comfortable doing so. I hope by the time we have kids don't have to come out.
And that seems like a future we could all live in very comfortably. But unfortunately, we're out of time. Tune in again next week for another episode of Pep Talks Uncut. We'll have a special guest then, and we look forward to talking with you. Okay? Bye-bye, everybody.
Thanks for joining us. And thank you for David.
Thank you, David.
Yes, thank you for being on the show. It has been a pleasure.